Hi, welcome to today's topic, and that is structure and function of placenta. Placenta, as you all know, is a feto-maternal organ. By that I mean both the fetus as well as the mother contribute to the formation of this organ. It has two components, the fetal component and the maternal component. The fetal part, this develops from the chorion frondosum, and maternal part, this develops from the Deciduea basalis. So you can take down, placenta is a feto-maternal organ. It has two components. The fetal part that develops from chorion frondosum, and the maternal part that develops from Deciduea basalis. Now, when we want to know the structure of the placenta, we must know certain structures. I'm sorry, I'll be taking you back to your first MBBS anatomy class. And in this lecture, we'll also be studying what is meant by Deciduea. Don't take down anything at the moment. What is meant by Deciduea? What are chorionic villi? What is chorion levi and chorion frondosum? What are primary, secondary, and tertiary villi? What are anchoring villi and free villi? What is meant by chorionic plate and basal plate? What is Nitabox layer? What is intervillar space? And what are placental cotyledons? Don't worry, we'll discuss each one by one because all these factors contribute to the formation of placenta. Let's have a look at the gross anatomy of the placenta. Placenta is called as placenta because placenta is a Greek word which means flat circular cake. The weight of the placenta is approximately 500 grams. The diameter of the placenta is between 15 to 20 centimeters. It's discoid in shape, and thickness in the center is 3 centimeters, and it thins out at the periphery. Now you can take down the weight of normal placenta at term is 500 grams. The diameter is 15 to 20 centimeters, and the thickness in the center is 3 centimeters. Now let's have a look at the fetal surface of the placenta. As you can see in this figure, this is the fetal surface. In the center, you can see the umbilical cord attached here, and you can see a shiny membrane, that's an amnion, and underneath this amnion lies the chorion. Through the chorion, you can see these fetal vessels running all around, and they reach up to the periphery, and this is what looks when you look at the fetal surface of the placenta. So you can take down, the fetal surface is formed from chorion frondosum and chorion plate. Don't worry about these two terminologies. In next few slides, we'll have an explanation to this. Just remember at the moment, fetal surface of the placenta is formed from chorion frondosum and chorionic plate. Next point, this fetal surface of the placenta is smooth. The umbilical cord is attached to it. It is covered by chorion on which lies the transparent membrane, that is amnion. And numerous blood vessels are seen branching from the umbilical cord to the periphery. This is the description of the fetal surface of the placenta. Let's have a look at the maternal surface of the placenta. The maternal surface, as you can see in this figure, looks very shaggy, dark brown in color, and it has cotyledons which are separated by deep grooves. There are around 15 to 20 cotyledons as we discussed. So you can take down that this maternal surface of the placenta develops from decidua basalis. Maternal surface of the placenta develops from decidua basalis. The surface is rough and shaggy. The surface is rough and shaggy, and it shows 15 to 20 cotyledons, as you can see in this figure, and they are separated by grooves. That completes the description of the maternal surface of the placenta. Develops from the decidua basalis, surface is rough and shaggy, and we see 15 to 20 cotyledons which are separated by the grooves. Once the placenta develops, what does it do? So you can see the two umbilical arteries which coil around the umbilical vein. So you can see two umbilical arteries here and one umbilical vein, and they branch here. They go through these villi. These villi are submerged into the intervillous space, and this is the maternal side. From maternal side, you can see this red artery. That's a spiral artery coming there, and the veins. The spiral arteries pour their blood in this intervillous space. This villous surface acts as an exchange mechanism. Thereby, there is exchange of gases and nutrients, and the oxygenated blood goes back to the baby through the umbilical vein. This is just a gross. Let's see description of the further structures one by one. We are going to see what do we mean by decidia. Decidia is the name of the inner lining of the uterus during pregnancy. In other words, endometrium changes its name to decidia once the pregnancy has occurred. And why it is named decidia? As you can see in this picture, this is the picture of a deciduous tree. By that I mean seasonally all the leaves fall off. Likewise, decidia also completely gets shed off at the end of the pregnancy when the placenta comes out. And that's why it is named as decidia, because it gets shed. So this inner layer of the endometrium is divided into different structures. Let us see that. As you can see in this figure now, the fetus growing inside here, surrounded by the trophoblastic tissue, and trophoblastic tissue is lying on this decidia. Now there are three types of decidia depending upon their location. This decidia where the embryo lies is called as decidia basalis. This part of the decidia, which covers the rest of the embryo, And this is looking towards the endometrial cavity, as you can see here. That is called as decidia capsularis. And this decidia, which covers the rest of the endometrium, rest of the uterine cavity rather, is called as decidia parietalis. So we have decidia basalis, decidia capsularis, and decidia parietalis. Now you can take down decidia basalis. Decidia basalis is the part of the decidia where implantation takes place. That is the decidia at the embryonic pole. I repeat, decidia basalis is the one where implantation takes place, or it is the decidia at the embryonic pole. Decidia capsularis. As you can see, the arrow points towards the decidia capsularis. This is the decidia that covers the embryo at an embryonic pole. And the last one is the decidia parietalis. Here you can see that it lines the uterus except at the decidia basalis. I mean, the rest of the uterus is lined by decidia parietalis. Now we have to understand few terminologies like extraembryonic mesoderm or the chorion. Now look at the figure on your left hand side. I hope you appreciate the marker moving there. This is the embryo developing here. So this embryo has different layers. As you know, it has ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. This embryo entirely is covered by the trophoblast. Now, at the embryonic pole, there develops a cavity which is called as amniotic cavity. At the other pole, there develops a small cavity which is called as yolk sac. And what is important for us today is this layer where this cavity has developed is the extraembryonic coelom, which has developed in the extraembryonic mesoderm. So we have two mesoderm, the intraembryonic mesoderm there and extraembryonic mesoderm there. This extraembryonic mesoderm forms nothing but the chorion. And now look at the figure on your right side. This extraembryonic mesoderm, it has this trophoblastic tissue there. This trophoblastic tissue all around the embryo forms finger-like projections. These finger-like projections formed by the trophoblastic tissue are called the chorionic villi, because we know this is the chorion and the villi developed there are the chorionic villi. Don't take down anything. If this concept of chorionic villi is okay, we move to the next slide where there is description of the formation of chorionic villi. You can take it down now. Trophoblast proliferates rapidly. Trophoblast proliferates rapidly and differentiates into two layers. And differentiates into two layers. The inner layer is cellular layer. By that I mean the cell walls are maintained. So each cell is separate from the other cell by cell wall. So this inner cellular layer is called as cytotrophoblast. Cytotrophoblast. or also called as Langerhans layer. So the inner cellular layer is cytotrophoblast, and the outer mass of this layer is called as syncytiotrophoblast. Outer layer is called as syncytiotrophoblast. What happens in syncytiotrophoblast is that the cell walls vanishes from there, and it's a multinucleated protoplasm with no cell boundaries. I repeat, the outer mass is called as syncytiotrophoblast. And what it is? It's a multinucleated protoplasm with no cell boundaries. So thus the trophoblast we know now has got divided into two. The inner one with cell walls is cytotrophoblast, the outer one without cell walls, only the nuclei are there, and it's a multinucleated protoplasm which we call as syncytiotrophoblast. The finger-like processes of syncytiotrophoblast extend through the endometrium. The finger-like processes of syncytiotrophoblast extend through the endometrium and invade the endometrial connective tissue, or you can simply write the finger-like processes of syncytiotrophoblast invade the decidua. And which decidua it invades? Obviously the decidua basalis. What happens in this syncytiotrophoblast is small cavities or the lacunae appear in the syncytiotrophoblast. Please write down. Small cavities or the lacunae appear in the syncytiotrophoblast. And what these lacunae do? These lacunae get filled with the maternal blood. So the spiral arteries open into these lacunae, establishing primitive uteroplacental circulation. Now we have seen the chorion which develops all around. This chorion is surrounded by the trophoblast which develops this villi all around this embryo. Now these villi are at two places. One is at the decidia basalis, and the villi which face the other one which faces the decidia capsularis. Now these decidia, the villi which project into the decidia basalis, they penetrate the decidia basalis and establish circulation there. By that I mean these villi develop future placenta. So these villi which develop future placenta are called as chorion frondosum. Chorion frondosum. And the villi which are covered by the decidia capsularis, these later on disintegrate, degenerate. So these villi which are no more seen later on, which do not take any part in the formation of the placenta, are called as chorion levi. Easy to remember, one who leaves us is levi, so you can say these chorion levi leaves us, they no more continue to function. Chorion frondosum remains and develops future placenta. So now you can take down. chorionic villi develop from trophoblast all around the growing fetus. Next slide. The villi at the embryonic pole near Decidua basalis develop future placenta. They penetrate the Decidua basalis. They are called as chorion frondosum. Next slide. The rest villi approximating Decidua capsularis degenerate. They are called chorion levi. So this is how the embryo which comes into the endometrial cavity gets itself burrowed into the Decidua basalis. Let's see what is this primary, secondary and tertiary villi. You don't worry about this colored figure, but just have a look at it. That's the embryo which ultimately gets implanted here. So this is syncytial trophoblast and you can see the villi there. Left hand side, you can see the diagrammatic representation. We know that the syncytial trophoblast burrows itself into the Decidua basalis. Now this is like you guys going for a movie. If one person plans to go for the movie, his room partner also says that I will also join you. So when the syncytial trophoblast is trying to get buried into the Decidua basalis, the cytotrophoblast also says that I will also come along with you. So cytotrophoblast forms this layer which also buries itself into the Decidua basalis. Now this information goes to the neighboring room. So the person from the neighboring room says, I will also join you for the movie. Same thing happens here. The syncytial trophoblast has planned to go for the movie. The cytotrophoblast joins it. And the person from the neighboring room also comes. So after the cytotrophoblast has joined to form this villi, the extraembryonic mesoderm, as you can see here, also joins to form this villi. Now, the person from the third room also joins. There is a group now going for the movie. So we have the syncytial trophoblast joined by the cytotrophoblast, joined by the extraembryonic mesoderm, through which now run the fetal blood vessels. So these villi, where we see only the syncytial and cytotrophoblast, are called the primary villi. When they are joined by the extraembryonic mesoderm, they are called the secondary villi, and where they are joined by the blood vessels, they are called as the tertiary villi. So that's the primary villus. This is the syncytial trophoblast, and this is cytotrophoblast. And this is a tertiary villus where we have the syncytial trophoblastic layer, the cytotrophoblastic layer, the extramyotic mesodermal layer, and the blood vessels. So now you can take down the primary villi. Syncytial trophoblast. Syncytial trophoblast forms finger-like projections into the decidua. It also contains cytotrophoblast inside. That is primary villus. Secondary villi, when primary villi also contain extra embryonic mesoderm inside. That is secondary villus. And what is tertiary villi? When the extra embryonic mesoderm is invaded by fetal vessels from inside. So that completes the description of primary villi, secondary villi, and tertiary villi. Now, what is chorionic plate? Just have a look at this figure. This little brown colored one is a chorionic plate. What I mean by that, this is the one which is contributed by the fetus. So it has this chorion, it has the cytotrophoblast and the syncytial trophoblast. So you can take down what is chorionic plate. Point number one, it is contributed by the fetus. It is contributed by fetus. Point number two, it forms the roof of placenta. Point number three, it consists of extra embryonic mesoderm, cyto and syncytial trophoblast. So this brown colored is a chorionic plate. Just to tell you, this yellow colored is the basal plate. So you can appreciate that it is at the periphery that they come close to each other. So what is basal plate? As I told you, this yellow one is a basal plate. You can write down, it forms the floor of placenta. It forms the floor of placenta. And what does it contain? It consists of decidua. There is a layer of nitabuc and cytosyncytial trophoblast. I am going to describe this, what nitabuc layer is, in the next slide. Suffice it to say at present that basal plate forms the floor of the placenta and it consists of decidua, a layer of metabo, cyto, and sensitive totoplast. This is the figure I got from Khan Academy, just for your description. This is the chorionic plate, and below is the basal plate. Chorionic plate contributed by the fetus, basal plate contributed by the mother. What are anchoring villi? As you can see here, we have seen that there is a primary villus, secondary villus, and tertiary villus. The villus, which starts here at the chorionic plate and goes up to the basal plate. That is the one which anchors this chorionic plate to the basal plate, is called as anchoring villi. And it has these branches, as you can see here. These anchoring villi are branches, and it is through this villi. These are all tertiary villi, of course, and it is at this place that the exchange of the gases takes place, because these are floating in the interstitial space, which is in the syncytium. We have seen that in the syncytium develops the lacunae, which are filled by the maternal blood. So in the maternal blood, these villi are floating. These free floating villi are also called as free villi. So we have an anchoring villus from the chorionic plate to the basal plate, and we have free villi floating here in the intervillus space. As you can appreciate here, these free villi remarkably increase the area available for exchange between the fetus and the placenta, the fetus and the mother. So you can take down the villus that extends from chorionic plate to basal plate. So it actually anchors the placenta there. These are called as anchoring villi. It shows offshoots called as free villi. It shows offshoots called as free villi. These free villi increase surface area of exchange between maternal and fetal blood. So I repeat, anchoring villi is the villus that extends from the chorionic plate to the basal plate. It also shows offshoots called as free villi. These free villi increase the surface area of exchange between maternal and fetal blood. Now these lobes of placenta, each lobe has 4 to 6 villi, the anchoring villi. 3 to 5. So 3 to 5 anchoring villi and surrounding tissue forms one cotyledon or the lobe. Placenta has such 15 to 20 cotyledons. So if each cotyledon has 3 to 5 anchoring villi and placenta has 15 to 20, so on an average, placenta has 60 to 100 anchoring villi. You can take down 3 to 5 anchoring villi and surrounding tissue forms one cotyledon. Placenta has such 15 to 20 cotyledons. Thus, placenta has 60 to 100 anchoring villi. Now we just discussed about Nitya-Bux layer. What is this Nitya-Bux layer? See, the placenta is attached to the, on the fetal side, to the chorionic plate that forms the placenta. On the maternal side, it's the deciduum basalis that takes part in the formation of the placenta. But this placenta at the end of delivery has to separate from the decidua and get expelled. So there is a layer in the decidua basalis which separates this placenta, and placenta can get delivered. Where is this layer formed? This anchoring villi, when it touches the decidua basalis, as you can see here, the anchoring villi displaces the cytotrophoblast of the anchoring villi, displaces the syncytiotrophoblast. Or I can say that the syncytiotrophoblast undergoes what is called as fibrinoid degeneration. This fibrinoid degenerative change in the syncytiotrophoblast leads to formation of this layer, which is called as Nitya-Bux layer. And this is an important layer. Nitya-Bux layer is the one where the placental separation takes place. If this Nitya-Bux layer is absent, remember, these fetal vessels will enter deep into the basalis or deep into the myometrium and anchor the placenta to the uterus and does not separate. As you can see in this, let's see what is meant by this accreta, increta, and percreta. This white line is called as a Nitya-Bux layer, as we have just seen. That's the layer where the placental separation takes place. But if this Nitya-Bux layer is absent, we call that placenta as placenta accreta. Absence of Nitya-Bux layer plus penetration of the fetal tissue into the myometrium is called as placenta increta. Don't take down anything right now. And when this placenta penetrates the entire myometrium and even the serosa, we call it as placenta percreta. So these accreta, increta, and percreta come under a broad heading of morbid adhesions of the placenta. And then the placenta doesn't get separated, placenta remains inside, and there is a lot of problem of postpartum hemorrhage. Patient may require hysterectomy. So, take down Nitya-Bux layer. It's a fibrinous layer formed at the junction of cytotrophoblast with decidua. Point number 2. This is due to fibrinoid degeneration of syncytiotrophoblast. This prevents penetration of trophoblast through decidua. Sorry for the spelling mistake there. This prevents penetration of trophoblast through decidua. And it is absent in morbidly adherent placenta. Nitya-Bux layer is absent in morbidly adherent placenta. So what are the morbid adhesions of the placenta? We have seen accreta, increta, and percreta. What is accreta? Nitya-Bux layer is absent. What is increta? Here, not only the Nitya-Bux layer is absent, but placenta invades the myometrium. And what is percreta? Placental invasion extends up to the serosal surface of the uterus. These are called morbid adhesions of placenta. Now there is something what is called as placental barrier. As you know, that in the sinuses runs the maternal blood and in the villi runs the fetal blood. There is no direct communication between the maternal and fetal blood. There is a membrane, definite membrane, which divides the maternal blood from the fetal blood, and that is called as placental barrier. There is no direct exchange or communication or mixing of the fetal and the maternal blood. That is by this placental barrier. So you can take down, in spite of close proximity, in spite of close proximity, there is no mixing, there is no mixing of maternal and fetal blood. The two, I mean the maternal and the fetal blood, are separated by tissue. The two are separated by tissue called as placental barrier. In early pregnancy, this placental barrier consists of following things. One, from inside out, endothelial lining of fetal vessels. Naturally, the fetal vessels we see, they run through these villi. So the endothelial lining of these fetal vessels, the basement membrane of this endothelial lining. Second, basement membrane. Third, the mesoderm. We have seen the extra-embryonic mesoderm. Fourth, the cytotrophoblast. And fifth, the syncytiotrophoblast. I repeat, in early pregnancy, placental barrier consists of endothelial lining of the fetal vessels, basement membrane, mesoderm, cytotrophoblast, and syncytiotrophoblast. What happens near term is the syncytial layer gets attenuated. After having had a look at the structure of the placenta, let's see what are the functions of the placenta. Don't take down anything. Just I'm enumerating here. Placenta has a respiratory function, has a nutritive function, has an excretory function, has immunological, enzymatic function, acts as a barrier, and there are other functions of the placenta too. One line for each function. Respiratory function, of course, there is exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, which takes place through the placenta. Though in utero, on ultrasound, you can see the fetal respiratory movements taking place, they do not play any role in exchange of gases. But they are required, they are mandatory for the lung tissue to mature and grow. So placenta has one important function, that is the respiratory function, where there is exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Nutritive function. Straightway you can take down. First point, glucose, amino acids, and lipids are supplied to the fetus. Carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. That's the requirement for the fetus to grow. So glucose, amino acids, and lipids are supplied to the fetus. Next, water and electrolytes are transferred by simple diffusion. water and electrolytes are transferred by simple diffusion. Calcium and iron are actively transferred. Calcium and iron are actively transferred. Water-soluble vitamins are actively transferred. Water-soluble vitamins are actively transferred, while fat-soluble vitamins are slowly transferred after dissolving the fat. Next is excretory function. Urea, uric acid, and creatinine are excreted into the maternal blood by simple diffusion. Immunological function. Though the fetus is genetically totally different from the mother, it is not rejected. Placenta offers immunological protection against graft rejection. You can take down, though the fetus is genetically totally different from the mother, it is not rejected. Placenta offers immunological protection against graft rejection. Endocrine function. Placenta produces various hormones like HCG, HPL, thyroxine, steroids, insulin, estrogen, progesterone. You can take down. Placenta produces various hormones like HCG, that is human chorionic gonadotropin. Then HPL, that is human placental lactogen. Thyroxine, steroids, insulin, estrogen, and progesterone. All these cross the placenta very slowly, so the concentration in the fetus is low. But all these hormones are important for growth of the fetus and continuation of the pregnancy. Right on the line, they are important for growth of the fetus and continuation of pregnancy. Enzymatic function. There are various enzymes. Let's see one by one. Oxytocinase. This enzyme produced by the placenta, oxytocinase, inactivates oxytocin, and that's why the pregnancy can grow up to 40 weeks. Next enzyme is diamine oxidase. It inactivates pressure amines. And the last one is phospholipase A2. This helps in the synthesis of arachidonic acid and prostaglandins. Barrier function. Placenta has a barrier function. It protects the fetus against harmful agents in the maternal blood. You can take down. Placenta protects the fetus against harmful agents in the maternal blood. High molecular weight cannot cross the placenta. But Most drugs can cross the placenta and can be teratogenic. Most drugs can cross placenta and can be teratogenic. And viruses and bacteria also can cross the placenta. So it's not a foolproof barrier function. Among the other functions, important one is it maintains the temperature of the fetus. Because in our last lecture we have seen that hyperpyrexia of the mother or the fetus both leads to the intrauterine fetal death. So just quickly revising entire description of placental structure and function. The gross anatomy weighs 500 grams, diameter 15 to 20, discoid in shape, thickness is 3 centimeters. The surface of the placenta formed by chorion frondosum and chorionic plate. It is smooth, umbilical cord is attached to it, covered by chorion on which lies the transverse membrane, that is amnion. Numerous blood vessels are seen branching from the umbilical cord to the periphery. Maternal surface of the placenta develops from the deciduum basalis. Surface is rough and shaggy, shows 15 to 20 cotyledons separated by the grooves. The decidua are of 3 types, decidua basalis, capsularis and parietalis. We have chorion frondosum and levi. We have primary, secondary and tertiary villi. We have chorionic plate and the basal plate and the anchoring villi. The villi that extend from the chorionic plate to the basal plate shows offshoots called as the free villi. These free villi increase the surface area for exchange. Metabuchs layer, if it is absent, it leads to placenta accreta. When the placenta invades the myometrium, it is increta. When it invades up to the seroids, then it is procreta. Placental barrier, in spite of close proximity, there is no mixing of the matter and fetal blood. And these two are separated by what is called as placental barrier. And various functions of the placenta like respiratory, nutritive, excretory, immunological, enzymatic, barrier, and other functions. Thank you all and good luck for your 10 MCQ questions. Thank you very much.